This is Natalie again with the bottom half of the very early 20th century bodice and skirt combination. Again, this is either made of taffeta or it could possibly be near silk because it's, or very expensive silk, because it is quite sturdy and it is not shattering the way so many silks of the period do, because the metals used in their finishing process degrade the fibers over time and they just simply start falling to pieces. This one isn't falling to pieces at all. Okay, as you can see, this is a very long skirt. It's a formal skirt. And I believe that, because I believe this is anywhere from 1901 to 1903, but really probably, I don't know, it feels 1902 to me. Because of that period, skirts were allowed to puddle on the floor. And even at the time, newspapers and other writers, people writing in, even fashion editors, decried this fashion as being really silly. And articles in the San Francisco Call and New York Tribune and elsewhere talked about the need for women to train themselves in elegantly holding their skirts as they walked. And whether, depending on the skirt, whether they would hold it from the back, bringing it to the side, or whether they would hold it from the side or the front. And how difficult it was not to hold up the drop skirt or petticoat along with it, because the fashion ideal for some women was to let the petticoat drag and be visible while the upper skirt was pulled up. So let's have a closer look at this skirt. It is beautifully made, and if I had done my homework properly before this and had looked up again the what details show the year to be, it was either 1901 or 1902 that faggotted seam treatments, that means that each panel on the trumpet skirt would not close with a seam, but be finished. Each side would be finished, and then the pieces would be faggotted together. Glorious way to do things. It's highly decorative, and of course the underneath, you'd have a dark petticoat, most likely. You wouldn't want a white one under there. Although, what do I know? They might have gone for, I know that black and white gowns were very popular, so maybe there was a white petticoat under there, or white taffeta drop skirt. So, after the panels, which end in a curve, then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a final layer of gorgeously pleated silk. Each, the top and the bottom, each have applied, here, there we go, each have an applied box pleat. And let's look underneath, shall we? You can see that it's sewn on pretty roughly. It's just tacked on, which is as it should be. And you can see the finish under here. This first layer, the tacked on finish hides the join with the regular skirt. And then you can see that looks like binding that they have put over the top of the next layer to finish it. And then, isn't this neat? Between all of the rest of the layers, it's not solid. So that actually is, that's probably the continuation of the of the front skirt panel. All the rest of the layers are connected by a strong netting. Feels very strong to me. Hasn't pulled a whole lot, just amazing. So each layer overlaps the next. Top of each layer, finished with the seam binding. Then the very bottom, the seam binding has started, no, it's actually much more than started. It is in the process of disintegrating. So perhaps, it's not binding, what am I saying? The box pleating is starting to disintegrate and just come all the way to pieces. I wasn't but sure that perhaps there was an underlayer here that of a puffed and ruched, very soft silk to make the bottom of the skirt stand up all proud of the ground a little bit. But that piece is either missing or there was nothing that actually came with it. So you can see the bottom piece. Oh, this is more here. Sorry for the flopping around. Surprise! Underneath is a facing of velvet, and this would give body to the hem of the skirt. You can see how it's attached here. There we go. It makes the skirt quite heavy, by the way. There is nothing light or airy about this skirt, despite the faggotted seams. When you pick it up, I haven't weighed it yet, but when I weigh it, you will see that it's quite heavy. I am sure that the front was meant to dip, while the back would have ridden higher. That was the fashion. And of course, if you're wearing a straight fronted corset, that is going to happen somewhat naturally. Now, let's look at here, I'm gonna make that smaller again. Here we go. Okay, you have the final seam there, and then you have a hidden, looks like it's hard to tell if it's just one pleat. I think it may be just one, yeah, it's one pleat. One pleat for fullness and to hide the snaps here. And if we pull this out, adds just a little bit of fullness to the back. So that's the exterior of this really quite amazing skirt. You can imagine what it must look like when it was first worn.